Shavua Tov, and Gute Woche. As this is a rather long story, I'm going to break it in parts, and as the author himself will say, there are various versions of the story. As a matter of fact, there is a different version I told a couple of years ago. Those who follow me on Facebook will remember, which is found in the manuscript of the Shivchei Baal Shem Tov, but not in the printed version. There is also a variation of the story I'm going to tell now, which appears in the Yiddish printing of the Shivchei Baal Shem Tov. So those who have heard it may have heard it differently, even from me. I am going to read as is in this place. The story is a bit complicated and the chronology of it jumps a little bit. This is like raw material, how it was received from different sources. So bear with me, we'll try to put it together the best way possible. The title of the story is, in Hebrew, Karavut Harav Maggid Memesrech Baal Shem Tov. The coming close, to Leitkarev is to come close of the Maggid of Mesrich to the Baal Shem Tov. We know that the Maggid, Rab Dober of Mesrich, was in his own right already a great sage, a pious man, a well-learned Jew. And this is how he comes to connect to the Baal Shem Tov. With the Baal Shem Tov, eventually he will be the next leader, the next Rebbe of the Hasidic movement. שמעתי מהרב דקהילת קודש, the Rosnitz, I heard from the Rav of the Holy Community of Rosnitz, שהיה מגיד משרים דקהילת פובילץ', who priorly had been the Maggid Misharim, this Musadik, this how do you say in English, this moralist preacher of the community of Povalich. This Maisa, this story, how the Maggid came to, the great Maggid came to the Baal Shem Tov, the great Maggid of Mesrich. The Maggid used to fast for 6 or 7 times consecutively from Shabbos to Shabbos. That is to say, he would eat in Shabbos, the 3 meals, but Motzei Shabbos, I don't know if this fast includes a Melava Malka, Motzei Shabbos meal, and I would imagine they do, but I don't know. The entire week he would fast, not eat day and night until next Friday night, from Shabbos to Shabbos, and then again and again, 7 or 8 times. I'm not suggesting to anyone to try to do this. This is what is told about the Maggid. And he became very weak. As you would imagine, such extended fasting would do physiological damage to the body. So once, Rab Mendel, the Maggid Misharim of the community of Bar, he's also a great tzaddik and huge follower of the Baal Shem Tov, that the Baal Shem Tov and the Rebbes would write about him, about his greatness. This Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Bar, it was the Maggid Misharim of the community of Bar. He came to the town of Torchin. I guess many of the sages of the time gathered in that community. And he stayed at the house of the Parnas HaChodesh. I don't know exactly what this title is, to be a Parnas HaChodesh, but a well-known, rather wealthy elder man in town. The Maggid at the time was living in a small house next to the house of the Parnas HaChodesh. This arrangement, this house arrangement, is called an Unterstibel. In Hebrew they explain it of a back room, but an Unterstibel will be like a room under the house. So I don't know if it's on the back of the house or basement of the house. It was a small adjacent or under the house, whatever, under the house of this Parnas HaChodesh. Rav Mendel came into the entrance of the house, and he heard that the Maggid was teaching his Talmidim, and he liked the words of the Talmud, of the Maggid. He found grace on him. So he came in and he saw the Maggid emaciated, very weak, very I guess his skin touching his bones. And he knows that the man needs to be cured. So he told him about the Baal Shem Tov. You know that there is a Baal Shem Tov in this world, and if you go to him, he would heal you. The Maggid told him, "Toiv lechasos beHashem mivtoach ba'adam." Basically, a man should trust in God rather than in a man. I don't need to go to another human being for healing. I will trust God Himself. When Rabbi Menachem Mendel, the above Menachem Mendel mentioned of the community of Bar, came to the Baal Shem Tov and told him at the Shabbos table what happened with the Maggid, the Baal Shem Tov tells him that he was in the community of Torchin a few times, and I saw a kli yafe, a beautiful recipient. Like the Maggid is a man who is capable of receiving the teachings of Hasidus. And the Baal Shem Tov said, I know of him already for a few years, and I would yearn for him to come to me. Gaguim is to yearn, to miss for him to be by him. Now he mentions Yesh Kama Nuscha, there is a few different versions of the story of what happens now, how the Maggid came to the Baal Shem Tov. So I heard from those who were close to the Baal Shem Tov that the Maggid was finally convinced to come to the Baal Shem Tov, and when he came, he found that the Baal Shem Tov was sitting by his bedside, reading Gemara, studying the Talmud. So the Maggid greeted him and asked that the Baal Shem Tov comes to heal him. The Baal Shem Tov gives him an answer that is not too clear to me. I can tell you what I think it means, but he tells him, "My horses do not eat matzos." Now, to a Talmid Chacham, a man who knows the secrets of Torah and Kabbalah, this means something else that would mean to us. Matzah, in the Zohar and in certain Kabbalistic sources, is called the bread of healing. But my horses means you are to lead my carriage. You are to lead my movement. You are not going to eat from the same refuah, from the same type of healing as the other people do. What I do for others, I'm not going to do for you. That's what I think it means. But I'm putting my 2 cents worth in here. The Maggid felt so weak in that moment. He had to come out. So he came out and sat down to rest on the porch of the house, and the place where the house is a little raised up, so you can sit there and rest. And he saw a young man and called him and asked him to please go and tell something to the Baal Shem Tov, to tell him that the Baal Shem Tov should fulfill the pasuk ve'ahavta es hager. The pasuk, the verse, literally means you should love the stranger, to the ger, and we understand it to love those who come to Judaism, those who choose to convert to Judaism. Once they become Jewish, we are not only not to set them apart in a negative way, but we should extend our love to them. So for the great sage, the Maggid, to come to the Baal Shem Tov was like to become Jewish again. He was raised into a great level, and that's not when the Baal Shem Tov to ignore him, to send him away. This mentioned young man was Rav Yaakov of Anipoli, who we already mentioned in a previous story, who worked as a sofer, as a writer for the Baal Shem Tov. And he felt pity for this man, so he went to the Baal Shem Tov and didn't want to direct confront the Baal Shem Tov, so he went to the back of the house, and as he was passing by the Baal Shem Tov, he tells him that there is a man in the front of the house who is waiting to speak to him. And he asked me to tell you why is the pasuk Ve'ahavta es Hagar not fulfilled, and then he leaves the house. He find a way to say it like sideways to the Baal Shem Tov without confronting, without making it a bad thing, a big deal. The Baal Shem Tov gathered 10 men and came out to ask for forgiveness. There is a halacha about if you embarrass someone, you should ask for forgiveness in public. Not to embarrass in public, the opposite. One should put himself down in public to ask for forgiveness. So he gathers a public, 10 men, a minyan, to go and ask for forgiveness for however the message has come to the Maggid. And went to try to heal him through his words. Now, I heard, says the author of the book, from Rav Gershon, the Maggid Mishalim of the community of Lipitz. I don't know if we've mentioned this community before in the story. Okay, so Rav Gershon says that the Baal Shem Tov would go to see the Maggid for about a period of 2 weeks, and would sit in front of him and recite the Tehillim to heal him. And then the Baal Shem Tov said, I wanted to heal you through words. So it would be a type of healing that would stay long, forever, a lasting healing. But now I need to employ medications. So Baal Shem Tov gave him a place to stay. Remember, the Maggid was a poor man and staying like a side thing of this Parnas HaChodesh. So Baal Shem Tov gave him a place to stay, and 12 golden coins, I guess gold coins, every week, so he will be able to pay for his needs. I don't know the value of this Zehuvim, so I don't know how much is Baal Shem Tov giving him. Seems like a very generous amount of money. And then Rabbi Yankel, mentioned before, Rabbi Yaakov of Anipoli, and Rabbi Eliyahu of Skvira would go from time to town to learn with him Gemara and Tosafot by the Maggid, when the Maggid couldn't come to the Baal Shem Tov because he was so weak. And after a short time, he started getting better, and he was able to go to the Baal Shem Tov and sit by his Shabbos table to share the wisdom of the Baal Shem Tov. This is not a whole story. Now comes the most interesting part, which I'm going to try to tell next week. Please give me a like, subscribe, share the story, and come back next week for the second half of this story. Shavua Tov, a gute Woche, a freilichen Chanukah, Chag Urim Sameach.